this out to everybody. Great. All right, so we are going to be rigorous with our time and your commitment to being here on time. So welcome. My name is Trish Keiller, and I'm the founder of Roots Education. I support schools and teachers and families in really emotional regulation, and what I like to say, just how we can learn to enjoy the journey, right? That's why we're here, to be able to enjoy the journey. And I'm so excited today because a really good friend of mine and colleague of mine, Paula Rodriguez, and I have been working together for a couple of years now in various capacities. And we were having this conversation a couple of weeks ago about the integration of our work and our conversations with our friends and our families and our sisters around like the overwhelm and like, but it's the holidays, wait, it's supposed to be fun, and where's the essence of the season? And so we thought that we would just have like a conversation about some of the tools that Paula and I continue to use and to grow into, but have both of us like decades of experience in learning and growing into those capacities around self-care, self-regulation, love, family, connection, and work, right? The sort of the both and so Paula, I'd love you to just introduce yourself to our communities, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much, Trish. I am so excited to be here and excited to share the importance of the essence of the holiday season and really tapping into self-care. I am a love coach, Paula Rodriguez, and my passion is to bring love into the households, into families. And I start by dealing with what's in here, dealing with the heart. So I work with women, and I believe that every woman around the world is worthy of living and being in extraordinary love. So love, not only the romantic love, like relationships, but everything that has to do with love. And so speaking with Trish, we said, you know what, let's join forces, link arms as women, and bring this to all the women out there who are going through the same things, because we have experienced overwhelm. We have experienced all the things going on at the same time. And the difference is that we have, like you said, we have worked through and we have coached other women on this. And we have tools that are very, very simple and very, very powerful and can really get you out of that never-ending cycle of doing and checking boxes and all of that. So we're going to ground you in the essence of love and connection and being present. And we want to make this very interactive, because this is not just the two of us lecturing here, but we really want to have a conversation with you. And I'm going to invite those who are not on camera, if it's possible for you to be on camera, we would really appreciate it, because we are in this era of Zoom and this connection at the same time. So we love creating connection, and the way we can do it is to see you, like actually see you, see your face, see your eyes, see what's going on, like really read what's going on in your life, because it's very easy to disconnect. It's very easy to just hide. And we want to let you know that we see you, we hear you, and we have created this space to connect. We have created this space to support you. So I'm inviting you, if you can, to put your camera on, even if you're on your bed without makeup, whatever it is that's going on, we want to see you. So thank you. Thank you for this.
Great. So I think, when Paula and I were talking, really the first thing that we wanted to ground was the essence of what the season is really about, but how we hold it in this way that I know with friends and family, the words I've heard are like, okay, brace yourself. We're going into the holiday season. How are we going to do this? The exhaustion, the overwhelm. And so I was asking Paula, like, just to sort of talk to us through as women in particular, also not men as well, but I feel that sometimes we can hold it differently. Where does that come from? Where, like the expectation, the way that we're holding things, what's really the root of that? How do we start to really see it so that we can shift?
Yeah. So what I have found is that we follow these traditions, and that's the disguise by just like pleasing people, or pleasing my mom, or pleasing my grandma, or pleasing my neighbor, or pleasing this and that, because that's the way it's supposed to be. So it's like we have this framework that we're supposed to follow, or the expectations, and as mothers, as wives, as women in general, things that we're supposed to be following, things that we're supposed to be like checking off a box. And so it becomes ingrained in us. I feel like it's something that we just have to do, instead of us feeling like, oh, I get to do this. Like the holidays are coming, like there's this sense of excitement. And I have a feeling that there is this mix of emotions. So it's like excitement, but not really, because it's like, oh my God, it's right around the corner. I haven't done anything. I am so behind in buying the gifts or this or that or whatever, or cooking. I was sharing with Trish, I was just having a conversation with my mom an hour ago. She called me and she's like, so what are we cooking on Friday? And what's happening? And have you bought this? Have you done this? And I'm like, really? Can we just have like a break for a moment? And instead of going into the checking the boxes, be like, how's your heart? Like really check in. How are you feeling? Are you tired? What do you need right now? And this is speaking to another person. Now, if you get in front of the mirror and you were to ask yourself that question, like, Gina, what do you need? Gabriela, what do you need? Kathy, how's your heart today? How are you feeling really? What is it that you need today? Maybe you need to breathe, because as moms, we forget to breathe. We forget to just take a minute to like let things just sink in. We're always on the go, on the go, on the go. So I have this sense of like, what is it that you have to do because that's the way it's supposed to be? And what is it that you get to do, and something you're actually looking forward to, something that you are enjoying the process of, something that you are so involved in, you're 100%, and no matter what, you're going to do it. And not just because you have to please somebody, or just because what are they going to say if I don't do anything, or really from a sense of you being authentic with yourself, being honest with yourself. Do you really want to do this? Do you really feel like doing it? Or are you showing up just 50% because you're exhausted, or just because you're not really enrolled in what you're creating?
Yeah, and I love that question. I know for me, one thing that I always come back to is this notion of like, what do I need? And often I was looking outside from that, like for my husband, like, okay, I need you to do this. I need you, you to do that. I need my, my business partner, like to do this. And this reframe of like, what do I get to give to myself? And where that can be held in overwhelm, or it can be held in power, right? That like, okay, I get to give myself nourishment, right? For those of you in relationships, I don't know, with, my husband, I don't always get all the acknowledgement of like all of the things that, I've been doing, or feeling like I'm waiting for like acknowledgement. Like, do you see me doing a million things? And going like, oh wait, I'm putting that outside of me. And then that's creating stress for me, or not feeling appreciated. And so, when we're shifting into, I get to appreciate myself, I get to see, what I'm doing, how that actually shifts our entire family and the relationship of when I'm seeing and acknowledging and needing and getting to say, hey, this is, I'm needing some time. I'm taking 15 minutes right now to distance myself from everyone, because I know that I need a few minutes. I don't have to wait for somebody to tell me, oh, you look overwhelmed, go take it. I get to step in and acknowledge what it is that I need.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? Like at the end of the day, they don't care if the cookies are done and they're perfect and they're all in that baking sheet all aligned, or if, like the decorations are up and perfect. They don't want a stressed out mom. They don't want a wife that is whining and complaining and like, I'm so exhausted, and looking not taken care of. So this is feedback that I have received from my husband too. He's like, can you just can you just calm down? It's okay if it's not all done, if it's not all complete. We want you to be present. And so it's like the kids are coming and I'm like, no, wait, hold on. I got to do this. I got to do this. So if we're always in this sense of going and doing, we're missing out on the whole point of being together and sharing and being present and leaving that experience and that memory for our kids. So I don't know if this happens to any of you, or like, I would love for us to get a sense in the chat. Yes, say, yes, this is me. Yes, I experienced some of it, or share with us so we can get a pulse on what's coming through, what's going on, what's coming up for you, Gina, Gabriella, and Kathy. Or you can just open the mic, right? If you want to share, that's good too.
I can share, Paula. I think what you were saying about the going, I know as a mom, I'm always like the Christmas cards, the wrapping the gifts, and I don't think my husband ever even worries about that. It just gets done. And so, yeah, it's like on my to-do list of all this stuff I need to finish before Christmas comes. And I think because you want to make good memories for the kids and the family, but you do feel exhausted during the holidays. I mean, I do personally.
Yeah, I love the lead into the exhaustion, right? Because I think that there's a way, and both Paula and I do a lot of work with people around like self-care and what does that mean, you know, self-love, self-care. And I think sometimes the self-care can feel like one more thing to do. And it's like, well, I don't have time to take a bath. I don't have time to go, right? Like, where does that fit in? You know, it's like, where does it fit? I feel like there's a value and an importance, like, oh, yes. But then where does that fit in? So Paula, I'd love you just to give, you know, your thoughts on, you know, distinguishing that self-care and the time element and how all of those pieces kind of fit together. What are some of the things that you do or frame that to free yourself up from self-care feeling like a heavy pressure thing to do, and then guilt around it if we're not doing it? Like, oh, great, I'm not getting enough sleep. Now I'm beating myself up.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that I apply in my life, and some of the things that I work with my clients on, is self-care is not another thing on your to-do list. Self-care doesn't have anything to do with doing. It's all about being. It's all about integrating it into the lifestyle that you already have. So what does that look like? Maybe the bubble bath for me doesn't work today, but it does for you. Maybe just breathing for a minute can be a game changer for me right now and not for you. So self-care is really this connection that you have with yourself in every single second. So a very powerful tool that I use all the time, and it works wonders for my clients, is you just pause for 1 second and you ask yourself, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want right now? What do you need right now? And that's when you get the answer. I just want a glass of water. That's it. And maybe that could be enough for you to run for another hour or to run for whatever it is that you're up to. How long does it take you? It takes you 30 seconds to drink that glass of water, but it can really fill you up to a point that you feel like, that's all I needed. I'm good. And you shift in a moment. Maybe self-care for you looks like going in front of the mirror and saying, hey, you're doing great. High-fiving yourself, like, you know, Mel Robbins says, like, just high-five yourself. You know, you've got this. It's a lot. I get it. And you got this. Cheer yourself on. Because if nobody else does it, hey, do it for yourself, because you're showing up. Celebrate the little wins. Celebrating like, hey, I got that card out. You know, I made the phone call. I crossed out that one thing off my list. Yes, there's 20,000 things, but hey, I crossed out one. So really building yourself up. And it's all about being. It doesn't take an entire day for you to say, okay, I'm carving out today. I need the entire day for myself. Please take care of things. And plus, be guilty about it. So I tell my clients, it doesn't make any difference if you have the most luxurious, amazing, delicious bubble bath. If you go in there and you're thinking, I still have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. I'm the worst thing. I'm so exhausted. And my kids, it doesn't work. So you're wasting your time. You're wasting water. You're wasting all the things. And you're not really getting the result. So it's better for you to really tune in and see what it is that you need exactly. Maybe you're completely depleted and you need more things like to integrate so that you can have your cup completely full. Maybe it's just one thing every single day. The most important thing is that you have very clear in your mind that it's not about more time. It's not about taking more time or more things on top of the list that you already have so that you can take care of yourself. The other thing is you are priority. You get to be part of that to-do list or that to-be list every single day. So whatever it is that you're doing, top 3, you got to be part of those top 3. Whatever that looks like for you. Maybe you just want to go for a walk. Maybe you just want to breathe. You want to meditate. Whatever self-care looks like for you. Maybe you're craving something. Give yourself that. Eat a bowl of fruit. Whatever you feel, like your body will tell you exactly what you need. So I think it's very effective. And it's like you're saying to yourself, I care enough about you to give you what you're asking me for right now. In the morning, check in. What do you need today? What do you need from me today? And give that to yourself. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. It doesn't have to take resources. It doesn't have to take any of that. Now, the other thing is that time is equal to intimacy. So whenever we have trouble with time, whenever we're so busy, check how your relationships are working. Check and see how you're having your friends or your husband or your partner or your family members or even your kids. If there's some challenge there and you are always in this busy mode, notice that time equals intimacy. So it's very interesting that this time it's supposed to be the slow down season. Let's connect, be present. And we're doing the opposite. We're busy. We don't have time. We're on the go. We're running around. So just for a minute, like let's do a reality check. Where are we missing out on the whole essence of the holiday season? Where are we missing out on the whole point of, can we just be here for a minute? Like, do we really have to be all dressed up? And I speak from experience because my family is always like, you got to be dressed up and your hair has to be perfect and your nails have to be perfect and everything has to be perfect. But honestly, it's 6 o'clock and I'm exhausted. I just want to be in my PJs and just sit there on the couch. Like, can we just enjoy Christmas, So if self-care looks like to you to go get your nails done, amazing. But if you're doing it because you have to, because otherwise, what are they going to say? Otherwise, your mom's going to tell you something. Otherwise, the pictures are not going to be nice. Then be honest and check and see if that really is self-care or is that checking the box.
Yeah, there's so many things that sort of just reinforce and landed, but the notion of like, what's the intention? Right? So regardless of what we're doing, but what is the intention to really support me? Is the intention to people please? Because we could be doing the same thing, but the way that we show up, if the intention is different, then the whole experience is different. Right? So when you were talking about the to-do list, one thing that I love to do with kids, with teachers is instead of creating to-do lists, not that there's not things to do, but you create a to-be list for the day and get really connected with, how do I want to show up today? Is it loving? Is it supportive? Is it focused? Is it right? Like depending on what's going on for the day, when we really connect, because the negative bias, if we have a list of 50 things and then we do all of them except one, right? How's the brain wired? We're going to just look at the one thing. We're like, wait, but it's not complete. So we do a couple things. One, we make the list at the end of the day of like, what did we complete? And we're just completely focused on what we did accomplish and creating like, how is it that I want to show up today? Because our kids, our families, our colleagues are going to remember like the experience that they had in being in our presence. So making the cookies when we're joyful, connected, loving is a very different experience for everyone when we're making the cookies from that space, then we're making the cookies from, oh my God, they're waiting for the cookies. Everybody needs the cookies. I hate making the cookies. Why did I sign up to make the cookies? Right?
And then you burn them, and then
it's felt. So the work I'm so passionate about is our being. Then actually energetically it shifts the experience. So we don't have to, it's not about doing less, but it's about being and very intentional with how we show up, and then people feel that. And that's what is really connected and what we get to remember. It's so it becomes so clear. It's like, why am I doing this? Is this really what I'm doing? And am I doing it from this place of love and connection? And the other thing, Paula, that you said that I just wanted to highlight and reinforce too, is how easy it gets to be. So whether that's a glass of water, it's taking 2 minutes, to breathe. And in a couple of minutes, we'll kind of shift to how we share some of these, what does that mean for our kids and our families, whether that's students or your kids, but that sometimes we connect time, like how much time do I put in to the outcome versus the quality and the experience. It could take 1 minute to slow down, deepen your breath, feel your feet, get back in your, highest, wisest, best self. And that's it. It doesn't have to be 45 minutes of something else that creates overwhelm. It really gets to be, easy. For me, a lot of times it's taking 5 minutes. I love the 7-minute app. Some of you see me like highlight the 7-minute app. It's like, dude, 5 minutes of push-ups, sit-ups, I'm like re-energized and ready to go. Not waiting till, I don't have half an hour to do my run or go to a yoga class, but like, no, 5 minutes, it shifts. And when we shift our relationship with time, as Paula says, it shifts our relationship really with intimacy and connection.
Yes. And what I'm hearing you say is really what works for you in the moment. Whatever works for you and whatever you feel like it will give you that boost for that next mile that you get to go in things that you get to create and all of that, whatever works for you, go do it. Like, honor yourself. That's how you put yourself first. And if you feel guilty about it, what is your vision? Like, think big. What's your vision for your family? What's your vision for your relationship? If you say, okay, it's loving, it's connected, what is it going to take from you to show up as loving and connected? Your cup has to be full. Your cup has to be replenished. How can you do that? Then you go back. It's like you do the reverse engineering on it. Okay, so for me, it would be drinking water, going for a walk, or taking a nap, or whatever. It's thinking about the vision. So I'm not going to feel guilty about taking this 10 minutes to do breath work or whatever, because I know that I'm doing it for something greater. I know that this is my intention behind this, is so that I can show up loving, available, present, energetic, replenished, all of that. That's what has worked for me when it comes to mom guilt. Like, I'm here in the bubble bath and my kids are screaming and yelling at the door, like, Mom, get out. So it was hard at the beginning. It takes practice, but really what works for me and what grounds me is to know that I have communicated and said to my husband, I'm going to take 20 minutes for my bubble bath. Can you take care of the kids? Lock the door. I'm in here, I'm present, and I'm doing it actually for them too. Because they're going to receive a mom, they're going to see a mom that's replenished, that's glowing, that feels like singing and dancing and being silly, and not yelling and screaming at them because you're exhausted. So when we really go deep into the why we're doing things, it removes the guilt. It's actually you telling yourself, I'm doing the work. I'm investing this time because it's important for the bigger vision. So if that makes sense, that's really what has worked for me and what works for my clients over and over again, especially those that are, in positions that they just don't have time. They don't have time. Okay, so Gabriela has a question.
Oh, that's perfect. I was just going to talk about that.
Yeah.
It's perfect because it kind of, there's two connections here. Because one, the most important thing, which is just a reminder that you and I have heard a million times, is that our kids will just be who we be, right? Their orientation, their paradigm to life is just going to be how they see us and what we're doing, their experience of us. It's not going to be what we tell them ever. So it will be through the modeling of how we're doing that. So when, you know, and I say these words, and you've heard Paula and I both using this, you know, get to is one of, you know, the bigger, like what I call magical mindset reframes, and have to is carried in obligation and burden. Like, I have to make the cookies, I have to take a bath. Like, if we carry self-care that way, and when we shift to really what it is, the reality of like that we get to make cookies, right? We forget, we can be really disconnected from the privilege that we all have, right? To get to do the laundry, to get to take care of our kids, to get to make dinner, to have this house, to host people, not from a place of guilt, but just from a place of truth. And when we're reconnected to that, right, we can actually be in our hearts. So I, you know, say I have a 5-year-old daughter, and, you know, she knows, and I'll say that, like, you know, this is mom's journaling time. You know, mom gets to take care of her. Join me, come, you know, sometimes she's up early, so she knows. And so in those moments, even though sometimes it will feel, you know, like the guilt will start to surface, like I get very clear and I see her, you know, it's when Paul's talking about vision, it's like seeing her. I see her as a mom, taking care of her, telling her kids, you know, mom's going to do her reading right now. And I'm so happy that you're up early and you get to sit down and do some coloring or write your journal. But it's really important to me that she take care of her. And so the only way that she'll really get that is me taking care of me. And so I think the language around it, same thing like with your husband, you know, like sometimes we just call it, like, you know, the Friday night, like mom and dad, we get to sit here and just kind of chat. So sometimes with kids, we make it just so much about them, make everything about them, like their schedules and their experiences and their things. And so as parents, sometimes we can feel that, well, of course, right, we want them to like have this amazing experience, but what are we teaching them underneath that? We're not really enrolling them in how amazing it is to be an adult or in a relationship and the things that you get to do, you know, as an adult, which one is to nurture your relationship. So it's daddy and mommy time, like mom and dad get time to talk to each other. Mom and dad are having like date night, and this is not, you know, your time, so that she knows that it takes work. And so there's also, this kind of goes into some family constellation kind of work, but there's also like hierarchy and what helps kids to feel safe. And what helps them to feel safe is not actually to be the center. Those aren't words that they can feel, but they want to know that you're bigger, that you got this, right? Like, I'm important, I'm taking care of me, and I got you. You don't have to worry about you. You don't have to worry about me. I got you. Dad and I got you. And modeling for them, like, you know, the other night, my husband and I my daughter, she's like winds up in the ER. My husband and I are like, I'm in this training. It was like all these things going on. So my husband and I are getting angry and trying to figure it out like quickly. And so the next day, it wasn't even the next day, it was like a couple hours later, I had to like ground for her. Hey, mom and dad were really upset. We just really were in a disagreement. And so we talked it through, and now we're clear. You know, now we figured out how we can do that, right? And I know my voice got loud. I know daddy's voice was getting loud, and we fixed that, right? Now we're understanding, right? So being really authentic with our kids, because these things in the holidays will be happening. And what often happens with kids, this is a little bit of a side note, but as adults, like, we fix things and we repair them when kids are like gone or asleep. So kids can often be part of the breakdown because the breakdowns are happening in the moment. Like, the car's not working and the cookies are burning and everyone's like, ah, and then we fix it later, right? Kids were part of that, but then we fix it later in private. And so they're still sort of carrying this. So it seems so insignificant, but just to call that out, like, wow, last night everyone was like, you know, I use like kind of tiger stuff. I'm like, everyone was like, ah, right? It's like, oh, we got like that. We got really sped up. We were moving so fast because we were scared or we were worried. And wow, we had to take a minute, and now it's back, right? So just naming and sort of calling those things out for kids can be really important. And even just, you know, explaining your thinking around that, you know, sharing with them like a think aloud. I'll say to my daughter all the time, like, oh, mom's moving way too fast right now. I can tell I'm moving way too fast right now. I get to slow down. Let me just take a minute. Like Paul said, it could be a minute. Mom needs a minute. I'm going to feel my feet. I'm going to take some breaths. And organically, what happens as human beings, because even I just did the, when you say take a breath or somebody starts breathing, it's like everybody does that, right? It's like, that's the quantum field. That's really fascinating. So your kids also can then be regulating with you, which is really a co-regulation. So that was a little bit of a tangent, but when speaking to our kids, owning that, taking care of ourselves, dad gets dad time, mom gets mom time, Reggie gets Reggie time. We get time together, but we all get to have this time for ourselves, and we get to ask for, when we need it.
I love that. And, I'm as you're sharing that, I'm thinking, okay, where's the gap in my own parenting? Like, where's my gap? And when I'm the mom that's asking for the 10 minutes or the minute or whatever. And something that I have been working on a lot and has been working is like having their own self-care moment, like the bubble bath for them. And then telling them like, okay, so you already had your bubble bath. So whenever I want the bubble bath, I tell them, remember when you have your own time for bubble bath, now is mom's time for bubble bath, or whatever it is, to go for a walk. So you want to go for, ride your bike or whatever. Okay, mom wants to go for a walk right now. So it's like kind of like having the parallel of, oh, it's okay to do that. It's okay to do, it's actually part of life. It's actually part of everything. And we have been teaching them, like, whenever we are in the bathroom, because we know moms don't even have the time, like the space to be in the bathroom all by ourselves, but like they come in and out, at least when they're very little. So teaching them like, okay, can you just give me 5 minutes, 2 minutes, or whatever it is. When we are in the bathroom, we wait. So they have this sense of like boundaries, like, okay, it's mom time, it's her time, or it's her space. And so kind of like both ways with them as well. And I think it has worked for us, and it's a process, right? It's a process. And the more we pour into ourselves, the more we, I'm very about self-love, especially the moms, because we do a lot, and we show up for everybody, and we forget that we are human beings. Like, we expect so much from ourselves, and it gets to a point that we just break down. We just break down in tears, and we're just like, I don't know where to even start with all of this. So remind yourself that you're human. Remind yourself that you also need the space, the time, and you also need support. And another thing that, as you were sharing, came up for me is the whole being creative and being resourceful, and whatever it is that works for us. And this comes from something that I learned from you in one of your trainings, Trish, and it's whatever works for you as a parent. And like this week has been crazy. Like one day my son has to take one thing or the other thing, the ugly sweater, the Santa hat, the custom of whatever, like, my goodness, first is time, second is going to the store, even if it's pickup. Amazon is taking forever, and the expense, like the money that's involved. So I chose, like, it was 9 o'clock at night, and next day was custom day, Christmas character. I'm like, I choose to not go to the store. I do not want to go out. I want to go to bed early. I just want to take care of myself. So what can we create here? My son was having a total meltdown. And then I said, so what's possible here? So we started discussing, and it, like, for me, it really felt like I was taking forever, but it was just 15 minutes for us to enroll him into possibility and coming up with something that we already had at home. And he ended up super excited about it. So next day he went to school, he came back saying, Mom, you were right. It was so cool. And this and this and this and that. So it really showed me that we can create whatever works for us, and not like me in old times. I would have gone to the store, Walmart, at midnight and go like a maniac. trying to find the custom or trying to find the whatever it is. And ugly sweater, we chose to do it at home, make it at home. So we made it an art project yesterday involving grandma and dad, and we were all there gathering, painting things and sewing things and working on that. He was super excited about the ugly sweater because he was part of it. And we were not running around looking for a sweater and spending money and spending time and making it another heavy thing to do, another have to. So it was an experience that we integrated. So I thought it was worth sharing because for me, it's really a breakthrough on like, let me just get this done and buy it and whatever. But how can I show up and connect with him? And that's what worked, what we created.
Yeah, and I just want to share, and then we'll see if anybody has any questions before we wrap up. But you know, really what you're alluding to, Paula, is presence. Mm-hmm. Presence, just being present. And I think with our kids and our spouses and our colleagues, presence always trumps time, length of time. And so, you know, creating that the boundaries around, you know, the phones and being really clear with your kids when you're going to be present, like when you're with them, like to actually truly be there, mind, body, spirit, the whole thing, and setting yourselves up to know, you know what, hey, mom has 10 minutes and the phone is gone. And if that means set the timer, right? Like you get to do multiple things, but really being present is what heals. And it's always, you know, in so many, I mean, this worked for so long and so many trainings and so much self-growth and improvement. You know, what I always hear from people is like, I just wanted my mom or dad to be there, to like be present. Not like, no one's like, I wish they gave me more stuff. I wish they gave me more stuff. They're just like, I just wish that they were there, right? That I felt important, that they're, and so in our thinking around make the cookies for them and get the sweater and do the stuff, right? It's like what they're really seeking is connection, and belonging, which really comes through presence. And it doesn't have to be that long of a thing, you know, when you're checked in for 5 minutes and then now I'm back to this. But our false sense that we can multitask, which is not really how we can function, you know, we're actually bouncing very quickly, is not efficient. But more importantly, it just feels very disconnected, and our kids feel that energetically, as do our spouses. And we can kindly model that. My husband and I have even created times now where like the phone's down, like we're not doing both, even though we feel the overwhelm, because then it's really inefficient. So presence trumped all. And the last thing I wanted to say, Paula, and I love Paula, she's so cute. She's like, when you want that bowl of fruit, I'm like, what about that glass of wine? And when I want that chocolate cake, that's what I'm talking about, Paula.
The glass of wine, the bottle of wine.
The bottle, right? It's like,
and the entire chocolate
it's bar. Again the intention of deserving, of sitting down, you know, savoring and enjoying, and not eating or drinking that with guilt. You know, aside from that not being a pleasant experience, it also doesn't really digest well in the body because we're kind of in a stress response. So I say that half kiddingly but half not, is like, yeah, we really get to enjoy and savor and our kids and our girls, right? Like what we're passing on to them with how we're seeing ourselves, or when we're walking around talking about like, oh my God, mom shouldn't be eating this, or this is so bad, right? Like what we're sort of, you know, trickling into their DNA is like, oh, wow, this is amazing. I spent all this time making it, and I want to sit down and I want to eat it and I want to talk to you and to be really connected, not, oh my gosh, I guess I'm gonna have some more and I'm gonna feel awful tomorrow, right? It's again, it's intention. So the self-care can be healthy, and there's no bad food, you know, there's no, one of my favorite quotes is, you know, the poison is in the dose. The poison is in the dose of all things. So it all gets to be good. All right. So do you guys have any questions? I want to be really cognizant of our time here. Any questions or anything coming up? Anything resonating, or anyone want to just pop in and share something?
Yeah, and you can just open your mic if you want to, if you just want to share. Maybe you want to share, like, what's the greatest challenge right now, or like, what is something that we can support you with that perhaps we haven't mentioned and we can totally support you right now?
Jenna, are you typing? Okay, I thought Jenna was typing. And it's good to see you, Jenna. Well, go ahead, Kathy.
Oh yeah, I was just going to share that so much of what you're saying is really resonating with me. And the example that kept coming to my mind, my youngest son is home quarantining this week for the third time in 2 months. So there was just this moment yesterday where, you know, of course the technology wasn't working, and it was just kind of like one thing after the other after the other. And I could feel myself getting more and more frustrated, as was he. And so, like, in a fit of almost like instinctual reaction, I just like announced to the whole house that I was going for a walk. And during my, 15 minutes, it wasn't like a truly long period of time. I just had this epiphany of like, oh, the way I walked out, my son probably thinks like I'm frustrated with him. And so when I came back, we had a really good conversation about like, mom took that 15 minutes because she was feeling really frustrated, but not with you. It was more with the situation. And I could see him just like really calm down after that because he was getting upset. I was getting upset. And without having taken that time for myself, I don't think I would have had that aha moment if I would have just kind of stuck with it and continued on the hamster wheel of what was happening in the house. I don't think I would have realized that, oh, he's actually thinking I'm frustrated at him or I'm getting angry with him.
Yeah, I love that. And what's so important really is, and we're often really disconnected from how much the body is having the experience. It's like I always say to people, like, you can't think your way there. You can't think your way to peace. It comes through, right? It comes through our body. It comes through movement. It comes through breathing. It comes through our sleep. Oh my God, sleep. We didn't really talk about sleep, but it comes through us. And so when we know that and honor that and model that for our kids, is like, oh yeah, I'm frustrated. Boom. What do I do? Right? Where do I get to shift? And then the other thing that's important there too is that, what we focus on expands. So what we focus on expands. So you can see this, we start spiraling, right? You have like one, and then it's like, oh my God, right. And so sometimes the quickest shift is like something completely different. We do this with little kids all the time. We're like, oh, here's a toy. Right? And we distract them, and then the focus shifts, and all of a sudden they're there. So we get to use those tools with ourselves too, to be like, I am spiraling right now. And sometimes we do this organically. We put on the TV or put on Netflix, or we call somebody, but we get to remind ourselves that is the experience. That's the mind body experience. We get to refocus, not ignore, not skip over, but we get to use, both of those. It's so great, Kathy. Okay, let's see. Oh, I love it. Thanks, Jenna. Yes, so great. So great. Nice to be with your families. All right. Paula, I'm going to put in the chat. If you're not in my Facebook group, you could jump in there. I'm sharing like tools and tips throughout the week. And then Paula was I think she's got something she was going to share with you in case you're interested there. I'll put the link in here.
Yeah, so I am hosting a series of masterclasses and meetups, because I think this is really important to create the space for women to take a deep breath, to share, to vent, if you will, and to come and ask questions and say, like, really see that you're not alone, that you're not lone wolfing it, because it becomes very overwhelming. And even if you're surrounded by people, we sometimes feel very lonely, and we feel like there's no support and it's all on our shoulders. So I have created a series of masterclasses, and another one that I'm hosting is tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And it's really a space to come together, and I coach you in whatever it is that you need support in. I focus on self-love and relationships, and maybe there's some breakdown that you've been having and you don't know how to handle it. So bring it to the meeting, bring it to this space. It's a safe space that I create. And there's women from around the world. It's completely free. And it is for you to carve out that time. Consider it part of self-care. Consider it part of your me time, of your, let me just clear things out. Sometimes just speaking about these things just takes the energy off, and there's relief. Like there's this sense of renewal after it. So that's my intention behind the masterclass or the meetup. I rather call it a meetup, because it's very like you coming into my living room and let's talk about what's going on and let me support you. So I'm going to drop the link there so you can register for it. Again, it's completely free. And so the next one is tomorrow. And that way you can receive all the details and everything for this meetup. And I would be more than happy to see you there. And if self-care is your thing, then I am the one to support you in that journey, because it's really what I am totally passionate about. And yeah, in my family, like we're all about self-care. So I
love it. It's an ongoing journey. It's an ongoing journey.
Yeah, so, it's our lifestyle.
All right. Well, Paula, thank you so much. Thank you, ladies, for joining us and for jumping in and you're already making yourself a priority because you're here and you're taking that time. So I hope you have something that you can take with you that will support you through the holidays as you be right, connected, loving, joyful, and then create that experience. It's really being. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Right.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Bye. Thank you.
Holidays. Have a great one.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye. Take care.